teams in that conference or division aren't any good.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. It's that time again. It's a True North podcast hosted by Billy North, World Series champ with the Oakland A's in the 70s. He's up there in Seattle. Yours truly, Mark Mancini, down here in Los Angeles, playing a little co-host, producer, 347-205-9631. If you happen to miss it, catch the archive version, blogtalkradio.com/Mancini Sports, podcast platforms, wherever you subscribe to podcasts, powered now by Mancini Media. So without further ado, as I lay that red carpet down, put the podium in its place, hand off the mic, Bill the Threes, how are you? How can people get a hold of you? And we're bringing your brother back here, man. What a hitter he was in the day for the part two of a great interview, Darrell Evans. Hey,
I'm good. You can reach me at Bill Norte, BILLNORTE, excuse me, Bill, BILLNORTE 15 @gmail.com. And my guest again is Darrell Evans, one of my favorite teammates and somebody I love and has a great spirit. What's up, Darrell?
I'm doing great, buddy. Better than last week when we talked. So, you know, it doesn't get better than that. Hey, every day getting up, having a good time, and looking forward. Now talking baseball. Nothing better than that.
Up no roses, so that's a good thing.
No, heck no, not yet. That's for sure, man. Yeah. You know, so that's a long way away. Like I told you last time, I don't know what inning I'm in. You know, are we still in the 6th inning or 7th inning or extra innings coming? Heck, I'm looking for a doubleheader maybe. Who knows?
You're still in the game, though.
Well, you know I'm going to show up for the game. Yeah. So you know that.
Darrell,
yeah, so,
I want to talk to you about some of your teammates. I have one guy that I had been thinking about for a while now. He was just a tremendous player in the Atlanta Braves organization when you came along. His name was Oscar Brown.
Oscar, big O, yeah.
Oscar would be the star of all of them.
Well, yeah, but you know what? You know, he had Hank and Rico and let's see, Mike Colon was there, and then you know, Felipe Lou, and yeah, so he was kind of. You're right. He was kind of like Dusty and I. You know, we were supposed to be takeover guys, but you know how that works. You don't take over. You don't kick somebody out when they've been there 20 years.
Yeah.
You know, you got to wait your turn. You know, and you know, I think he kind of, you know, so he didn't really get the opportunities. So then, you know, kind of people like going, well, maybe he isn't as good as we thought. And then when that opening comes, somebody else is there again. So I think more than anything, that's kind of what happened to him. And, you know, he was a great player. I mean, he was huge.
I mean, he was in the minor leagues and all of that. He was just, I mean, as far as I was concerned, the way they talked about him, he was like the number one prospect.
Well, yeah, of course. And you know, well, you know, it's looking back, man, that organization had a bunch of great players, of course. And, you know,
you had
you
had Earl Williams, tell me.
Yeah, Big Heavy. Big Heavy.
He was my
Big Heavy
in Oakland.
Oh, man, he was one of my favorite people, period. He was hilarious. You know, he could imitate anybody. And you know what? I admired him because there was another. So he's coming up in the organization. He's a third baseman. I'm a third baseman. And we also had a guy named Jim Brazil. The left-handed hitter was a third baseman from Houston. So all of a sudden we were all getting ready to make the scene there. And then they had to decide who's going to do what. So they went to Earl because, you know, he had stretch marks on stretch marks, man. He was a big old He was a All-American football player at New Jersey, I think, in high school, whatever. Man, and so they decided him. Let's see. How about? They asked him one day. How about? Hey, listen. What do you think about catching? And he was like, he had never caught before. So they put him. So pretty much told him, hey, we got to get all you guys in the lineup, and
you want to
play? You want to, let's see what we can do. And he took to it really good. He ended up being, he ended up being he was a great athlete, oh man, and just could rake, and so, he went back there, and you wouldn't even know it. I think most people ended up, of course, when he got traded to Baltimore, too. He got traded to Baltimore, and with all those 20-game winners and stuff, and then he got blamed because they didn't win 20 games every year, and it was like, oh, it's because of Earl, because of the catcher. You know how that goes. And it was like, wait a minute, man, you guys don't know. This guy's only caught like 3 years or 4 years, and it's all been in the big leagues. So, he was.
They should have been able to instruct him.
Well, yeah, of course. They had to have somebody to blame. Yeah. Some new guy coming over from someplace else. Yeah, of course, that's how that works. And so, but you're right, man. We had Oscar and Earl. And then Jim Brazil, who was as good as any of us, and he got hurt in a car accident going to spring training. I think in 70, 71, broke his leg, and he was a big guy. He could run and everything else, and of course, then that set him back. So he had to wait his turn till he got healthy, and that kind of hurt him. So that was a fun place to be. I hadn't really thought so much about that, but all the talent. Well, you guys. I look at it now too. So, they say, well, man, these guys are bigger, stronger, and faster than we were, and they work out and all shape and everything. They couldn't play. They go.
A bunch of them would be a utility player. Yeah.
Well, not good enough, but you can only be so good. Think about that. They talk about that, and they go, oh, these pitchers all throw 100 and everything and all like that. And I go, let's see, we faced Nolan and Marichal and Seaver, and Koufax was just finishing, and Drysdale, and let's see, who else? All these Kuzman, Holtzman, Catfish. Yeah, well, those guys were very good. They were just okay. And they pitched, I think we may talk about it later. You got to get them in the early innings, or they're going to settle in and better than they were. That was their reputation. That's why you look back and they all had, all those complete games. I was just watching, I just saw something that I didn't know was Frank Tanana. Frankie, he was as good as Nolan or better. You faced him more than I did.
Nolan would pitch one day, and Frank Tanana would pitch the next. But you know what? I used to love Frank Tanana. I wore his ass out.
Well, you're the only one, so that's only why he pitched for 20 years. You were the only one that wore him out. Yeah, the rest of us didn't like
400 against him.
Well, I'm sure he hit.
Because he threw that fastball, and right-handed, I could wear that fastball up.
Yeah. Well, he wasn't gonna walk you. Yeah.
Yeah, but the competition in him, he wanted to throw it hard. And I kept laying out the head. And then one day I got him for a leadoff home run in Oakland. And,
oh, man.
And he throwing that fastball, and then from that time on, he finally gave in and went to tricking me. Yeah.
Well, all those guys that we mentioned, and it's amazing. We think back and go, And, you know, when I came up, that great team I came up with, the Braves, you know, we had, 5 Hall of Famers on that team.
Come on,
in
man.
'69, they lost. We lost to the Miracle Mets. I don't know how that happened. And there was 3 out of 5 in the playoffs, and Hank hit a home run in each game. But we still lost. And, you know, so, you know, you thought Hank and then Orlando Cepeda, and the outfield was Rico Cardi and Felipe Alou. Oh, yeah, man. And, you know, it was like Clete Boras at third, and then, you know, all these great players, Phil Nico, the Hall of Fame. And so, you know, the competition, I think we talked about this last time, the competition was so good because there wasn't as many guys in the big leagues, because remember, that was a 4-man rotation too. So if you had to be
and Catfish and Vida and Holtzman would complete over 20 games a year.
Yeah, you know, it was like, yeah, that's what I was saying. You know, I saw Tanana at 17 in a row complete games back then. 17 in a row. You got to be kidding me, man. You're like, hey, man, can you get hurt a little bit, or, you know, not feel good one day, or, hey, can we get a few runs and knock him out so we don't have to face him again? You know, that kind of stuff where you're going, oh, yeah, and then you're going, oh, man, we got to face them in 2 weeks again and see those 2 guys again. So all those things were so good that we didn't think about that. I never thought about, oh, man, there's better players somewhere, or there's better pitchers. Like, I hope not.
They were all good. Mark.
Yeah.
Man, I'm listening to hear you guys run this conversation and manning the boards. And I want to ask you, Darrell, getting traded
yes, sir.
During the season, how tough is it? I know I've talked about it with Bill North. I've done the shows with Kip Gross, former pitcher. It gets tough. You got 3 days to get to the city. You leave the family behind if you got, kids and the wife. How tough is it? And if I'm a Major League Baseball player and they want me real bad, I'm going to invoke a no trade clause into my contract, because that's got to be tough. Living in a city and then kind of catapulting overnight into another city that you know nothing about. And you could be an American League team where, if you're a National League guy, you haven't been to this city because there was no interleague back then.
Well, you're right, but see, they didn't let you do that. There was no trade clause. There was no negotiating in your contract. It was like, here, listen, this is how much you're going to make. And if you don't like it, you sit out for a while, and we ain't paying you, and because you can't go anyplace else. Remember, baseball had no free agency. The only business in the country that you can't go, well, I don't like it here, I'm going to go over to this other place that wants me. And you could just take off, do whatever you want. Now baseball is different. So you had to put up with whatever they wanted for you. And then, like you said, so then I got traded, in the middle of the season by the Braves to the Giants. And for me personally, it was okay because I wasn't playing very good. I had a really brutal start, and so getting traded to West Coast team, I grew up in Pasadena, Southern California. So going to San Francisco, which is, like you said, I was familiar with it. And another bad thing, though, it was in the same freaking division as I left, even though I was in the Braves, I was all the way across the country, and we still had to beat the Dodgers in the Big Red Machine. So it was a good thing and a bad thing. It was a good thing for me because it was kind of like getting a new start, and I took it as, hey, listen, if they're trading for you, they want you. Yeah, they want you. Yeah, it wasn't like
you're
sure.
going to where you're wanted, and that right there.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's
but now let me on that when you go to a place that they want you, the adjustment period, is it tough to get adjusted? You don't know anybody in the city. You're probably leaning on veterans and stuff like that, or coaches to show you around and maybe get an apartment, and now you leave everything behind in Atlanta. How tough is that for maybe a young guy at the time?
Well, you're right. Kind of the age kind of thing helps or hurts. Like you said, if you're a veteran, you kind of know, and you got people on the other team. But see, the other teammates, for me, they were excited that I was coming. So it wasn't like like Bill was saying, being a cast-off. It was more of a exciting kind of deal. Okay, I wore out my welcome in Atlanta, which not really was the case, but it was just like I could understand they wanted to make a change, and they were putting me at first base, and so they got Willie Montanez, who was a great, he was a great player, and so both teams were kind of happy with the deal, and I was glad to kind of go on to a new place and kind of start over, and they had great, we had a lot of talent, we had great teams, and I was going to hit in front of McCovey, and and the only thing about it is, you got to put out of your mind and going, oh man, I'm going to play 82 games in Candlestick, so you're like, think about this. You're going from Atlanta, where it's hot during the summer and humid and everything else, and now you're going, oh yeah, I got traded to California. That's going to be great, except, oh man, we got to wear our long johns and you got to bring a parka.
We had a heater in our dugout. The visiting team didn't. But I'll tell you this, Mark, with that question, there are guys. I used to be able to take somebody that came to the team. I did that with Baylor. I did it with Claudel, a bunch of them, and I'd bring them to my house and let them live with me until they settled in.
Yeah, that was nice. In some places.
That's what that happens.
That's
all
amazing. Yeah, helping your brother and
yeah, but it doesn't always happen.
Right. Yeah. One more quick question. You came out of Pasadena City College. I came out of Palomar College down in northern part of San
Diego. Yeah.
So when I look at junior colleges, and I'm going to put this up there because Southern California, just a hotbed with college baseball. When you look at Cal State Fullerton, Long Beach State, UCLA, USC, the list goes on and on. When I look at the junior colleges, and I remember Greg Nettles' kid went to Palomar too, I believe, I would put the JCs in California right up there with the northeast of a four-year university, because I look at Southern California. If you want to break this down into football, guys, I'd break it down in the SEC. And the Northeast, they can't really practice too much during the winter and everything. I think the JCs in Southern California could outdo some of the back east four-year universities. Now, I might get hate letters on that, but I'm just saying, am I on to something, Darrell and Bill, on that?
Yeah. No, I agree with you completely, because when I was there, I graduated high school at 65. So I was in the first draft. They didn't have a draft before, and I happened to be in the first draft, which, you're not supposed to have a draft, but they get away with it. Sports teams get away with it because then they don't have all the teams competing with one guy, so they don't have to pay the guy so much. But back then, too, was, all those great schools you talked about, all the four-year schools, yeah, they were full up with talent. And so, and the great thing about the junior colleges in California back then was that tuition was basically free. And if you lived close to the junior college, you didn't have the cost or anything, and it was cheap to go to school, semester or whatever. I don't even know, whatever. There's $100 or something like that, per class. So it was an alternative for the people that maybe didn't get a full ride anyplace, and like you said, they were going to a school where there was a bunch of really good players that for some reason didn't go to a 4-year, but like you said, freshman and first freshman and sophomore year, you're playing against the same guys you played against in high school, and you might be better than them. And the reason I didn't go, basically, I had a full ride to USC and a couple other colleges too, playing basketball and baseball, but I didn't go there because I wanted to sign. But if I went to a 4-year, I couldn't sign to my junior year. So there was it made it really good because the junior colleges were hotbeds. Plus, Pasadena City College, we had 11,000 day students and 8,000 night students in a 2-year college, man. So and everybody in our league was the same way. So there was a lot of the population is so big, and that's that goes along with your premise of the East Coast. Yeah, there's some big cities, but California is just, it's just inundated. And the competition was great because you could play all year long.
Right. Along with the fact they just had so many players in California, Texas, and Florida. They had so many baseball players and stuff. Along with the fact also that, like you just said, Darrell, hey, man, 2 years in junior college. Yeah. I went to 4-year school, couldn't come out till I was 21, which was perfect because I didn't get good till I was that age.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's kind of everybody's that way. Sure. Yeah. You don't know when you're going to mature. And yet, but you're still playing against great competition no matter what.
Yeah.
And they weren't going, well, you don't have a scholarship, and your parents or whatever, they got to come up with a bunch of money that most people don't have. Yeah.
Along with the fact that as the competition and that, but you have the weather, and you have to throughout your baseball career, even when you're a kid, you have to accumulate at bats. Okay.
Yes. Exactly.
And they will find you if you're good enough. They'll find you. Okay, no matter where you go, but you can't sit on. You're going to sit on the bench in a 4-year school because they have the seniority. The guy that played there the year before you got there is going to be playing, and you're going to have to sit, and you need those at bats. Okay,
right. And I think that's the way it is now. It's still that way now.
Yeah.
Because and it's like because I talk to kids and go, you know what? Should I go? Should I play pro ball? Or should I go to school? And it's like, well, or should I go to a 4-year? Do I want to go Division 1, 2, or 3? And it's like, hey man, go to the place where you're going to play because the competition is really not that much different. You might face that one, ace on some 4-year school, but the rest of the guys are all the same, whether in Division 1, 2, 3, or junior college. So, like you said, it's almost better where, hey, man, do I want to hit 300 at a Division 3 school or sit on the bench and get 10 at-bats at a Division 1 school and waste a whole year? So,
to be a professional player, you cannot waste a year.
No, heck no, man. You because they're going to pass you by.
Oh,
like you were saying, Oscar Brown. Oscar Brown, man, they just didn't give him a chance. Basically, it wasn't that didn't give him a chance; it's that they didn't have room for him.
Amen.
He was great and stuff, but they weren't going to tell Hank it's time to retire because we're going to bring in Oscar Brown. And that filters like down all the way to college. Yeah.
Back in those days too, they had kind of like an unwritten rule that you have this many at bats in the minor leagues.
Yeah, right.
And I mean, you had to have 1,500 at bats in the minor leagues, and before you went up, and now that's changed. And in certain situations, and me and you, we got there sooner than that. But
it's changed. You're right.
Yeah.
But it's changed so much now that you could get 1,500 bats, but you don't have to really be good.
Right.
Because there's not that many guys. There's not that much talent out there to go, okay, well, yeah, if the guy hits 240, and, it's like, okay, well, yeah, he's good, maybe, okay, but we ain't going to bring him to big leagues. You hit 240 in AAA, but they do now because they don't have that many guys can do that.
Well,
so the talent is not got. Yeah.
They got the analytics, and they've given the analytics to the numbers, okay, and it bodes well, like Oakland used to be. They would win their division and that, but when they got to the playoffs, because all they were doing was playing the numbers during the season, but when you got to the playoffs, you got to be pretty good, because the guys in the playoffs you're playing against wouldn't be there unless they were good. And in the regular season, you got 162 games, but in the playoffs, you're out in 3. See?
Right, and they've expanded things for baseball now. Okay, more teams get in the playoffs, which I guess is good for the fans and everything else. But it's a false sense, and because you start in April, and you got to play 6 months to deserve. You got to play 600 baseball to deserve to get in the playoffs or the World Series back then. Now. Man, you don't really have to be. I mean, you could be, they got 3 wild cards now. So, you got 6 teams, and it's like, wait a minute. So we're going to play 6 months, and then we're still going to put 6 teams in. And it depends, and that's not right. And like you said, in baseball, it's the team that gets hot for a week. And they have during the season all the time. But the team that's hot for the whole season should deserve to be there. And, they're getting too many. It's like, they want to be like hockey and football.
Got an elimination game, 1 game, and you're out.
Yeah, they changed that a little bit now.
We're down to less than 2 minutes on the show, guys. And I wouldn't mind rolling like we rolled Lee Lacy in here. A 3rd week with Darrell, Bill. It's up to you and Darrell.
Man, you know what?
Yeah, let's roll a 3rd week next week. I got to get into Bill James. Yeah, I got to get into Bill James talking about you were the most underrated player he's seen, and also I want to talk about next week the 21 seasons you played. I mean, you must have saw a lot of guys come up through that minor league system that were just up in the major leagues for more than a cup of coffee, and then there's some of the guys that just weren't there for longer than that. Boy, that's got to be something to talk about next week too, guys, as we wrap this thing up.
I want to ask you about one guy in particular, Phil Niekro. Was he the gentleman and the person that he was?
Yeah, man. He's one of those guys that just will finish off here now. Just on the top of my head, and there's a lot more guys, obviously. Brooks Robinson, Fergie Jenkins, Carmen Killebrew. Just the guys you instantly, and Bill, we know better, of course, that you maybe only said hi to them, but you see how they treat people and how much, and when somebody asks you about them, you can't tell enough good stuff about them. Just class people, and they all played 20 years, man. They're around for a reason. They were teachers for everybody.
There were more of them, Darrell, but
of course,
always stands out in my mind. He always treated me. Yeah.
All the fun stuff we had with him. Just real quick, remember. So we do this again. So remember, I had to stand there at third base and not laugh at players that swung at the knuckleball and missed it by 2 feet or hit him in the chest. And just think, Phil was one of the funniest guys ever anyway, too. Just think, he was standing 50 feet from him, and he couldn't laugh at him. So he would go back behind the mound and powder his arms down with rosin and stuff, and you could see he was laughing, but he turned away. His chest was going. and then he'd look over at me and make me laugh. And the umpires it was like it was a special treat to be around that man on and off the field. But when he was pitching, there was nobody better.
I got
just a
one
class
hit off of him in my career, and he had to tell me about it. I didn't. When they asked me about something, I said, "Without him."
We're down to 20 seconds, Bill.
Sorry, you were rolling.
Yeah, I know. We got to save that to next week. Hey, Billy, let everybody know how they can get a hold of you as we wrap this thing up, my brother.
Bill Norte, BILLNORTE 15 @ gmail.com. Thanks, Darrell.
Darrell Evans is out
You're
there,
welcome,
too. I can't
everybody.
wait. Next week, part 3 with Darrell Evans. We're going to get into a lot of good stuff. 21 years playing. What is the secret of playing that long? We'll find out next week. Take care, everybody. Tune in to blogtalkradio.com /Mancini Sport to hear the archive. For Bill North, for Darrell Evans, yours truly, Mark Mancini. Have a blessed night, and thanks for tuning in.